million US dollars, roughly 580 million Kenya shillings, more than $500 million in endorsements. In the world of music, Beyonce was paid by Pepsi 50 million US dollars. This is a performance she did for the late Muammar Gaddafi family. A single night, 2 million US. A single night. She didn't work for a year. A single night. A single night. A single night. And close to her is Jennifer Lopez. Once she performed by Russian billionaire Alexander Yelkin, 2 million US a night. Kanye West performing for Kazakh President Nursultan, 2 million US a single performance. And the leading DJ in the world, Kari Saris, his endorsements have hit 66 million US dollars. At the meantime, the average Kenyan musician is trying to sell tips in the streets for 100 bob. For 100 bob. And maybe he's here. Maybe he's in our midst. 2 hands, 2 legs, 2 eyes. Of course, you can tell I was interested with another category. Which one do you think I was interested? Public speaking. Of course, I was interested because it humiliated me. Okay, the leading guy in the world was Donald Trump. He was paid between the year 2006 and 2007 by Learning Annex, guess what? 1.5 million for an hour speech. US dollars. 1.5 million US dollars for an hour speech. He did several speeches. And when Bill Zanker, the president and the founder of Learning Annex, was being interviewed and asked, was it worth it? He said he would pay him over and over again because every moment they announced that Donald Trump is coming, that is when they would do business. Number 2 on that list was former Prime Minister of Britain, Tony Blair, at 600,000. Number 3 on that list was former US President Bill Clinton at 450,000. Please understand, I'm not saying Kenya shillings. US dollars. Allow me to digress for just a minute. Let me digress for a minute because I know in this audience there are a lot of public speakers. At a glance, I can see Caroline DeRito, I can see Regina Ray, I can see my sister here, Betty. I know Roy is right there. I can see Patricia. I can see Caroline Gekonyo. And for their sake, I digress for a moment. So if you're looking for a brilliant public speaking career, we can analyze something. Why would someone pay Donald Trump? I do not think in my wildest imagination Donald Trump ever sat down to think he's a public speaker. No. He's in real estate. Let's face it. But the seminar he's invited to speak is on real estate. That tells you something, Roy. That tells you something, Betty. Carol, that tells you something. Public speaking does not begin the moment you pick the microphone. Unless you model success, people don't need you. You can only effectively teach what you consistently model. Unless you're a model of success, please don't waste time calling yourself a public speaker. People buy you before they buy your speech. People buy you before they buy your product. This is what personal branding is all about. That is why they think if you need to listen to a story about real estate, go to who? Donald Trump. Donald Trump. What I'm saying, if you need to change your wardrobe, please do so. If you need to change your car, this is not competition. It is because of your business. If you need to go to the salon, please go yesterday. Go. Go. You must model success. Don't go to high school to speak to students about success and then they are shocked. Is this what I'm going to become? You know, I don't want to buy into your vision. Am I communicating? Does that make sense? So I'm suggesting to you, be rare. For you to be paid properly, be rare. That's why we pay more for gold than we pay for soil, because gold is more rare. The real question, because this is the law of scarcity and demand. The more rare a product is available, the more people are willing to pay a high price for it. That's why we have lawyers in Kenya earning different money, architects earning different money, engineers earning different money. The same degree. In fact, one guy could be having a pass and the other one a first class, and the pass guy is earning more. Does that make sense? Yes. It is how he has branded himself in the marketplace. So how do you become rare? Let me give you 3 things that you need to check for you to be rare, for people to look for you and to pay for you good. Number 1, be extremely good at what you do. Be extremely good at what you do. You see, Jack Nicklaus, legendary golfer, used to have a lot of his fans saying, I wish I could hit golf ball like you do. I just wish I could hit golf ball like you do. I just wish. One day he stopped them and said, please, you just can't hit golf ball like I do. What are you talking about? Wake up in the morning, hit 500 golf balls, bleed your hand, bury your head, hit 500 more golf balls before taking breakfast. That's what it takes to hit a golf ball like I do. Be extremely good. Develop your gifts. Master your craft. So much so that they can't ignore you. You see, when Albert Einstein came up with his law of relativity, E equals mc squared, he went teaching it country to country, university to university. He did so many lectures, repeating word by word the same stuff. His driver challenged him, I've been listening to you for a long time. Please, if you ever get a sore throat, don't cancel the engagement. I'll deliver the speech far better than you do. And that moment of reckoning arrived. And Einstein had a sore throat. And the driver stepped in. And the driver gave the lecture far better than Einstein. He was a younger guy by far, and he had crammed the entire presentation. The trouble began during Q&A time. The first guy lifted up his hand and wanted some clarification. And the driver did not understand anything. But you know, they were pretending that Einstein is the driver, and his driver is Einstein. They were in that game. So the guy had this question. He did not even understand the question, leave alone the answer. Then the spirit of wisdom came upon him. Hey, that question says so easy, even my driver can answer it. So Mr. Driver, sir, I think I like the fact that he mastered what the master was doing. Be good at what you do. How do you become rare? Number 2, associate with people with high brows. Walk among giants. It is called the law of locus. It is not in any book. It's a book I'm writing. I'm trying to do 3 things at the same time, 3 books. One is a manual for Sense 101. But one of them, I tell you the truth, the law of locus, you're hearing it for the first time. It is the law of association. That is why where you position your business affects the price at which you sell the product. If you take your business to upmarket, by virtue of that locality, I'm calling it the law of locus. It determines the price of your commodities. People have a tendency of associating you with the guys you hang out with. For those of you who are joining me for the first time, there are some values I'm teaching to Sense 101, and this I repeat every time. I think I am part of your story. And I like saying this: you are the main actor. There is a story that you're playing, and someday the curtain is gonna close. You'd rather play the game optimally. Your story is unfolding. Today, some of you listening to me will come back. The overwhelming majority will come back. But there's a likelihood there is someone hearing my voice who will never hear me again. This is the only role I was meant to play in your life. And I am removed from your stage. Your story continues. Some people were brought to God to you for a season, and the season could be over. Don't insist on them. Move on. We like insisting on college relationships. We like insisting on high school relationships. And some people, even primary school relationships. I challenge you today, learn when somebody's role in your life is over. That does not mean they're bad people. Absolutely not. It only means that the role you are playing on your stage, you're the main actor. The role is over. Move on. If you have not found yourself moving on, I regret to tell you tonight, you are not growing. Because every so often, we grow at different rates. And the growth is proportional to your inputs, period. The growth is proportional to what is coming in you through books you read, tapes you listen, people you interact with. The rule I give in this club is simple. I call it that 3%. That means that 3% of people should be below you, people you're mentoring and coaching and training and helping to go to the next level. Then that 3% should be your peers, guys at your level, people you're vulnerable to, you can expose yourself to with no apologies. They can challenge every part of your work. And then that 3% must be people far ahead of you, people who challenge your status quo, people who challenge your comfort zone, people who make you feel uncomfortable with where you are. These are the guys I'm telling you today, associate with them. If you want to increase your blood, swallow your pride. Network with these people. Be deliberate about associations. Success is not accidental. It's deliberate. It's intentional. You see, a lot of people have good intentions, but they are not intentional about success. Every so often, review your relationships. Stretch them closer to your dream. How do you enhance your blood? Number 3, develop a worldview. Change your paradigms. Let me interrupt myself for a minute and say this. In the month of May, I'm going to teach about paradigm shift. And I'm going to call the topic Changing the Picture. For those of you who are joining me for the first time, I normally announce the next 2 months what I'm going to do. That's what I'm going to do in May. So I'll not dwell on this into depth about changing the paradigms. But let me see whether I can paint a picture about this to you right now. Just a small one. For you to realize there are things you don't know. Who in this live audience has ever heard of a man by the name Dr. Shinichi Suzuki? All right, don't worry about this. I'm just trying to show you there are things you need to know. Dr. Suzuki was a Japanese music teacher. He specialized in violin. Born 1898, died 1998, 100 years. He did something very phenomenal. He decided he can train kids music, yet I believe that everyone can sing, including Dr. Kenyaju Me? But that's what Suzuki believed. Of course, you say never, ever, ever tell me to sing. I can sing. Yes. I need to be 6 months again. Anyway, can I tell you this? Dr. Suzuki picked children who are 6 weeks old. Brought a tape that he had recorded and played to them for an entire month. Then the second month, a different song. The third month, a different song. In 6 years, these kids were not playing Little, Little Star. They are singing songs like We Are the World in 6 years without confusing a syllable. How do you know this? Unless you're exposed. Until you're told there's a person who does public speaking for $1.5 million. You'll never know. You'll continue charging 20 shillings per talk. To enhance your blood, you need to be exposed to change your worldview, to change your paradigms, to change the way you look at things. And this takes me to the third part of our discussion. I'm going to call it today blood proposition. Blood proposition. And this is a summary of how the world perceives you. This is a summary of how the world views your reputation. I want to ask you 3 questions. I'll say the first time, 4 questions, and then I'm going to repeat again. But when I'm repeating the second time, I want to hear the answer from each of you. These are the 4 questions. And when I'll ask you to talk to me, please, I want everyone to talk to me. And don't look at your neighbor. The good thing is you will all be talking. So don't worry, your neighbor will not listen to what you're saying. I'll be listening. Are you ready? Okay, first listen to the question. The first question I want to ask you, what do you do? What do you do? The second question I want to ask you, who do you do it for? Who do you do it for? The third question I want to ask you tonight, what do they really want? What do they really want? And the fourth question I want to ask you, how is it helping them? I'll repeat. What do you want? What's that in blood language? Product. What's your product? Question number 2. Who do you do it for? In blood language, your target audience. The third question I want to ask you, what do they want? In blood language, need analysis. And the fourth question I want to ask you, how does it help them? In blood language, what is your blood promise? So I'm going to ask you those 4 questions. Open your mouth. Don't worry about the confusion that will be in the hall. Everyone will be talking different answers, but don't worry about it. Is that okay? Are you ready? Yes. What do you do? Who do you do it for?
I have different languages.
What are their needs? How does it help them? Wow. You know what you've done? That is your blood proposition. That's your blood proposition. That's what you're proposing. And the focus is external. The focus is to the other people. So when you're writing your proposition statement, I want to suggest to you 3 things about it. Number 1, check your differentiating outlook to the world. Check your differentiating outlook to the world. What distinguishes you from the rest of humanity? That's the first thing you must check when you're writing this statement. You see, before we leave here tonight, you're going to write that statement. So you'd rather follow what I'm going to say? We must have some clear deliverables. Number 2, it must be authentic, punchy, and memorable. It must be authentic, punchy, and memorable. Number 3, it must inspire action by provoking emotions. It must inspire action by provoking emotions. And the reason is every seasoned marketer knows that sales are not done logically, they are done emotionally. And I could see a lot of marketers saying that. So your broad proposition must elicit emotions for people to follow you, to buy into you. In the corporate world, for example, FedEx, peace of mind. Simple. FedEx, peace of mind. Safaricom, transforming lives. I love it. Far better than the better option, isn't it? I like the new thing. It's nice. Transforming lives. Disney World, family, fun, entertainment. 3 words. Family, fun, entertainment. Let's close to personal brands now. That's corporate brands. We are not here about corporate brands. We are talking about personal brands. Ivanka Trump, the daughter of Donald Trump. An American mother, wife, and entrepreneur. Sounds interesting, but it defines her. I think the one I like most is the one I want to tell you right now. Nick Vujicic. How many are familiar with Nick Vujicic? No arms, no legs, no worries. No arms, no legs, no worries. I love it. I found another one. drknjacob. Inspiring generations. Inspiring generation. What's your broad proposition? You see, we like reading different scripts so that we can also challenge you by our lives, by leading you. That's mine, inspiring generations. What's yours? Before you leave this hall, as I continue with our conversation, I would like you to think through it. Number 4, let's go to the 4th part of our discussion. Broad packaging. Broad packaging. I want to ask Regina Ray to tell us what this is all about. Let's give her a hand.
When I think of the story and journey of brand packaging, personal brand packaging, I'm reminded of a man who did a research study in the 70s, 1971 to be exact. Goes by the name Dr. Albert Merahabin. He's a professor of psychology in the University of California, and his most profound works were on the communication signals that we send each other when we encounter each other face to face, when you come into this room. And he says, all the communication signals that we send, he broke them down into 3 main parts. There's what he called verbal communication. There's vocal communication. And there's visual communication. And he says each of them a different weight based on how we feel and what our thoughts are, our attitudes. We communicate and we use all these in concert, verbal, visual, and vocal communication in our day-to-day encounter with each other. And I just want to do a poll in the room, if you will indulge me for a minute. I want to get a sense from you, what weight, which signal carries the most weight? By a show of hands, how many of you feel or believe when you come into contact with people, what we say, like what I'm saying now, what you heard Dr. Kenyanjui saying, how many of you believe the greatest percentage is verbal, what I say? By a show of hands. How many of you believe that the communication signal strength, the strongest strength is vocal? how I say it, the sound of my voice, the huskiness, whether I'm sarcastic, whether I'm passionate, whether I'm lively, whether I sound mean. How many of you feel the highest percentage is vocal? Okay? And finally,